Welcome to physics.
Okay, this is going to be an educational video. It's going to be quick, but I want to teach a lesson here that I think is very important to protect people from destroying their careers before it even gets a chance to start. Flipping accounts. Now, I'm not really the flip account guy anymore. I've been in this space for a long time, so maybe if you look through the history, you might find a couple of flip accounts. I do them here and there. Sometimes to flex the trading muscle a little bit, sometimes because the market environment is so good that any style is appropriate right now. But last week we did a student audit, right? We did a masterclass. Inside of the masterclass, I audited some traders, right? And some of these traders were, by the way, the audit is kind of what I do with one-on-one sessions, right? It's the looking at the entries, dissecting what this person is doing, finding the habits, finding what's wrong, finding what they do well, what they do wrong, coming up with a strategy towards their strengths, and definitely fixing what's missing here as far as information and education. So when we look at the way it all played out, we could see on those videos that even though some of these traders had already withdrawn, had passed evaluations, got funded, made money, people are still susceptible to unraveling, right? When things are maybe a little tight with the money at home, or they're stressed out, or they missed out on moves, they start to react humanly, emotionally. And what I said on the webinar, so here's the deal. I know that people are going to do certain things no matter how many times you tell them. It's part of the learning process of traders. 10 years of teaching traders. I know that you can tell them 1,000 times, don't do this, don't do that, and they're still going to do it. So instead of telling people, don't do this, don't do that, what I like to show them is worst case scenario. Actually, most likely scenario is this is what's going to happen. The loss of money. When the risk is too high, you're going to lose money inevitably. You're going to blow the account. When you get major gains, it's probably because you were overly leveraged. So that cannot hold here. Inevitably, you're going to lose. Now, some people may say, no, that's not how it works. Then congratulations. You figured out how to do something that most people cannot do. Me personally, I feel that instead of saying don't flip accounts, show them what happens when you actually understand macro market, the bigger picture, understand fundamentals, technicals, all that good stuff for the bigger picture, how far that can go. Some of the testimonials that we have are based off of that. The other thing I should show them is if I'm going to take unnecessary risk, if I'm in a place of emotion, if I'm like, I need to flip this. For whatever reason, right? I'm immature about it. I haven't grown out of that. Whatever it is, we should train ourselves to always be as sharp as possible. Because what happens is the market, what people do is they lean on luck, right? Instead of them looking at the market and going, you know what? I want to flip this $100. Let me place myself in the strongest position of power, find a great setup. I need certain things in order for me to be able to flip. You know what they do? It's Asian session, 7 p.m. Eastern time, GBP USD, and they launch a bunch of risk. Or they go on gold and they just launch a bunch of entries. They don't even try to gain experience out of the situation, or at least control what they're trying to do here. So if it goes well, you shouldn't do that, but at least you gave yourself a fighting chance. So what I said here after the masterclass was, if you're going to use a lower frame, be accurate. If you're going to try to flip, I don't recommend it, but as you learned last night, people's emotions blind them. So teach yourself to never stop trying to be as accurate as possible, right? So again, I am not saying don't flip. I am not saying, ooh, that's a good one. Nice. All right. We're doing it. Look at the community. Look at all these moves, right? Look at all this winning. Very nice. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. So the example that I want to show you is this one. A lot of people in the beginning of their career, they want to grow the accounts. They want to be able to trade with real risk, withdraw, and still have something in the account. And the way that they try to do that is by just launching money into the market and hoping to God that it goes well. That's not really going to work long term. I know, shocking. What you should be trying to do is control as much of the setup as possible. when you make major gains, know that major moves, major gains means inevitable retracement. So if you're somebody who just keep trying to hammer that out, you're going to eventually just lose the money and frustrate yourself that much further, and you're $100, $200, $1,000, $2,000 poorer. That's just the way it works. My goal as an educator is to show people a better way. But even when I do that, they still try to go the other way because, like I said, emotions blind them. So for one of my students, I decided to make this style video. Now, truth be told, I tried this twice. The first attempt was $100, and I got the $100 to about $1,000. And that was a GJ setup that we had taken in the community. By the way, all these setups that I'm discussing are inside of the community, right? So they're all inside of the webinars that we've done strategizing for the week, the midweek recap, long form content, and the end of the week recaps and all the flash updates amongst them. So every single one of these setups are from the community. I didn't do anything really on my own. It's all from concepts and education and setups that we've talked about multiple times inside of the community. So I want to make that clear. The first one was a GJ setup that I got. I think it was $100 or $50. Hold on, let me check. So again, I want to be clear. I do not condone people flipping accounts, people throwing money into the market, people only trading highly volatile assets in order to get lucky. That's not what I do. If you go into the community, I've had a lot of different examples, because telling people don't do this doesn't work as well as showing them how much skill you need in order to get that particular approach done, because you're putting yourself basically in the situation where you can't eat drawdown, you're on a high volatility asset, you might not even be in session. There is really, you're leaning so much on luck that you have no advantages here. You have no edges. And in this space, the edges, the probability is the whole thing. And the risk management is a huge part of it. So when you start flipping, it's a problem. Now, some people are really, really insane, and they'll flip money they can't afford to lose. So last week, after the webinar, I just decided, you know what? Let me throw a little $97 in here. I started growing the $97. I was just launching them in there on a setup that was really good. Eventually, I got that account to about $1,000. Again, not pretty, not good. And then started to lose money, gained it back some, right? And then lost it all. Why? Because there was no space to make mistakes there. So this week, I said, you know what? Let's take a different approach. So we're going to go to this week. This week, I decided we're going to deposit $500. Okay, $500. And I'm just going to look for the best setup that I have inside of the community right now that I feel is very controllable. I could have done this on gold, but gold is a little erratic at times because of news, so I made a choice. I'm going to go with GBP USD. GBP USD is not a big mover. It's just not. It's not a big mover, but we were on top of this setup the whole time. And I wanted people to see the power of control here. Now, this is over. It's done. I've already withdrawn the profit, as you can see here, $5,000. This was a $500 deposit. I even have gold running right now with a slightly profitable entry. All right, 40 something pips. It's up $400. This is not, I don't care about this. I don't care about this account. This doesn't matter to me. I just wanted to be able to prove a point here. The point is a simple one. You don't need a lot of money to create money, to create profit, to change the look of your account, to be able to pay, air quotes, pay the bills. This same setup, people are taking all inside of the community. Remember, this is not a signal group. This is not a signal group, but you're going to see a whole lot of GU love in here. This is just people following along with the updates on different assets that we talk about regularly. So you're going to see, what's that? AUD JPY, GBP USD, all right, what's that? GU again, NZD USD, GJ, you get the point. What is that? GCAD, Euro JPY, you get the point, right? And as I scroll, you're going to see more and more screenshots. I'm trying to show them something here. I'm trying to show them that you do not need to get lucky. You do not need to do anything other than follow the plan, follow the setup. And yes, it might take longer with lower risk, But what people don't understand is you're probably going to get to your goals and targets faster if you control your risk, because you don't get demolished by one candle, by one news session, by a spread spike by your broker. There are people out there who blow their accounts if they go negative 10 pips. 10 pips. Sometimes the spreads jump to 10 pips depending on what time of the day it is. So you can't live and die by that approach. You have to be able to survive the environment. Now, as I look at this, let's look at what happened with this trade. This GU trade was pretty simple. This GU trade was that the market is starting to set up in a way where this makes sense following our liquidity concepts. This is entry one. Part of flipping an account, because I do have back in the day, I'm not going to say it was a science, but I'm going to say that I had this was the big money maker for me, flipping accounts. When I didn't have anything, $500 deposit was a big deal. All right. When I didn't have anything, losing $1,000, I want to jump out the window. So as I grew as a trader all these years later, now teaching people for 10 years, I know how you feel. I know every single time I work with a beginner what they're going to say, all the questions. They're looking for a way to make this as fast as possible to get to the money. That's why I make the community very affordable. I'm very understanding of what things cost. I'm not going to make the community $500 a month. If I want to have access to good people who have a lot of potential, I got to find a price point that makes sense for everybody, myself and them. Because of course there are goals here to grow traders. So these first sells, these sells could have been all 200 pips. These could have been 200 pips. But remember, this is not my main account. This is just a side account to prove a point. The point is simple. We got major gains out of a trade. This trade could have went bad. Another 10 pips to the upside, and I'm out of here. That account gets blown. What I did in the beginning was create a little bit of cushion, right? A little bit of cushion, a little bit of profit, a little bit of something. And then inevitably the market did what I wanted, which was run the sell to target. Easy. Now I could have held for longer, but no reason. That's just greed at that point. Again, not my account. If you're going to do something, be sharp. If you're going to do something, build up the profit. Don't put yourself in a position where you're up $500-$600 and then you're still like hammering out the entries without taking any profit. And if the market swaps over to the next day, which it did, this is a swap over. That's Monday, that's Tuesday. That's a lot of hours for you to survive in very tense situations. That's why people don't sleep. That's why people are stressed out. That's why people smash their keyboards. That's why they get frustrated. That's why they follow it up with another deposit. That's why they pull out the credit card and buy some crypto and redeposit, because you place yourself in this emotional state when it never had to be that way. Again, let's look at it from a much better perspective, something that I vibe with more, something that I teach. What if we didn't have to flip the money? What if this is just a standard, not 5 standards, not 4 standards, not 6 standards on a $1,000 account, $1,500 account? The way that went is I built from 500 to 1,500, and then I treated the 1,500 like I treated the 500, and then now we made 6,000. Right? I don't even remember the number. What the hell's the number? Yeah. So I already took out the profit, as you can see here. I took out the profit, 5,255, and I just kept something on there, and I have a gold trade running long term that probably will not hit target, but hey, it's July 4th. It's the weekend's on the way, and I'm already ready for that. So that's it. This is where we're at. It's over. It's done. Job complete. But what would happen? I get it that this happened and it's possible. Do you know how much? First of all, I can't care about the 500. There's no way I can care about the 1,500. The whole point is you're putting yourself in a situation where it's all or nothing. Do you really want to do that? For me personally, absolutely not. These types of things, I would not be here all these years later if every trade looked like this. That's just me. Maybe there are people out there who can tolerate that. I can't. I have a family. I have responsibilities. I have stress on my shoulders from things that have nothing to do with trading. I have other businesses and income streams. I didn't get into the trading space to destroy my mental health, to stress myself out every day, to not sleep, to hate the world because today's a bad trading day. I teach people you got to intertwine this into your life. And the only way to intertwine this into your life is by you creating an environment that's rinse and repeatable. I have to use appropriate risk that I can survive to the next day. I have to make appropriate percentage gains. Risk management is a huge part of the trading space. It doesn't mean that you can't get away with breaking the rules of risk management, but it's only a matter of time before this doesn't happen and it looks like the first trade where the $90 were blown. In this way of trading that a lot of people do, because when you blow an account, how did you blow that account? Was it the market? No, you did something on the management side, whether risk or entry management, that was horrible, and it placed you in a position where if the market moves even slightly in a 24-hour period, you're going to lose everything. How could you build anything in that way? So what I tell my traders is, this wasn't even the most accurate, right? I tried to do this a little faster than it could have happened. But just because I was able to make a couple of decisions, I ended up surviving the situation and ended up being in profit. And it's an imperfect situation, but I love that it's like that because it's the reality. The reality is you're probably not going to be sharp on every single entry. The reality is you will lose. The reality is there will be times where you don't understand what's going on in the market. And for you to just launch entries in there, all you're really doing is growing the bad habit and growing tolerance towards that type of approach. You just get comfortable in doing it that way. I tell people in the community, don't shoot from the hip. I tell people in the community, don't over leverage. I tell people in the community, avoid anything that makes you super emotional on these charts. But what do they lean into? The same things I'm telling them not to do. It takes work to undo that bad habit. It takes work to undo that feeling like, this is okay, let's see what happens. You have way more control on these charts than you think, but it starts with your risk, your entry position, and ultimately how prepared you are for XYZ scenarios. If this happens, I'm going to do this. When this happens, I'm going to do that. Having everything heavily alerted and heavily strategized. So again, this video isn't about, ooh, look at me, I'm so great. I turned 500 into 5,000 or 6,000, what the fuck it is. It isn't about that. It's about this. This same setup, maybe it just makes you $1,000. Maybe it just makes you $500. But you get multiple things out of that situation. You get experience. You get that understanding that, holy shit, I made this money under full control, and you get to live to trade another day. This ends badly if you keep doing it. The other way, you live to trade another day. And the same 5,000, 6,000 can be made on setups like this. It might not be in a 24-hour period like what I just did, but inevitably you can get there. The more that you do things like this, the harder it's going to be to do things like what I showed you from the community members. Those testimonials for 6 figures and, they withdrew 100,000, they withdrew 50,000, all the stuff that you see from me, that wasn't luck. That wasn't one of these. That was long-term, over time. One of the more popular testimonials is Andy, which is $100,000. I think it was like 150. I don't remember the numbers, but that was over months, right? He had one monstrous month for 70,000, but the other ones were 30, 20. The accounts could handle that type of risk. He was never in a position where the account was going to get burned. That's what we're looking for. Now, if I never get to the point of being able to trade under that much control, how could I ever expect that? The only way that I can ever make money is by being lucky, by the market spiking in a way that it was just lucky that I was there and so happened to have risk on the table. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for heavily controllable moments. So I want to say thank you to the students who let me audit them. I want to say thank you to the students who let me teach them. Hopefully this actually helps you. If it does anything, please cut it out with indebting yourself and launching money at the market. Cut it out with trying to get lucky. I'd rather a student take $1 a pip here and $1 a pip here, make $300 on the day, because you know what? People disrespect that. But how much do you get paid a day? Do you know how many people I know only make $1,500, $2,000 a week? I don't even know what people make because I haven't been in corporate America in 15 years. But I know they don't make enough to survive, most of them, to live. They have to have 2 jobs. They have to do gig work. You go out there and you do Uber. You go out there and you work overtime on a Saturday. You go out there and you penny pinch so that you can save yourself $100 this week. So you're gonna spit at an easy $200 play, $300 play. You're gonna spit at the possibility of making $500 on a 200 pip trend. because that's what those people are doing. The ones that are on the low end, the ones that are on standards at a 0, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. That's something to spit at. That's something to go, I don't want that. If it's not 10,000, it's nothing. Why is it that when we come onto these charts, the things, the numbers and the money per hour, per month, per year, that's normal to us in our everyday lives is no longer acceptable? Because you probably saw someone out there make a video like this one, or make videos like I've made in the past, or even bigger numbers, and you go, that's the goal. I get it, that's the goal, but you're not there yet. And maybe they're lying to you. Maybe the content's not real. Maybe the numbers aren't real. Maybe you're looking at a demo account. Your job is to look at what you want out of this and build towards that on your journey, on your timeline. You're never going to get there if you're just launching money into the market and hoping that this goes well. When the problem with social media is that it gives people these targets, these goals and they're based off of what somebody else is doing. And that is a recipe for disaster, because you are on the first pages of your book and somebody else is probably already written a second and a third book. The goal is to learn how to do this as correctly as humanly possible. The goal is to manage from A to B, to put the risk management in there that allows you to survive to the next day. And like I tell my students in the community, do you not trust me? Do you know how much of a disrespect it is for me to go every single day, update, strategize, answer messages, do all this, and for me to ultimately see you didn't do any of that. You just, in a moment of emotion, you just kind of launched it in there. And that's that. As always, happy trading.